My name is Debbie McPheeters. I'm going to speak on John Dewey and progressivism. I can't possibly cover all that John Dewey did in his 93 years in the next 5 to 7 minutes, but I do hope to give you a taste of John Dewey and progressivism and give you enough information to form your own inquiries. In Burlington, Vermont, 1859, John Dewey was born to a modest pioneer family. He spent many hours roaming the woods and rivers with his brothers, and he learned to love this non-school way of learning. John's mother was very educated and very well read. His father had limited education, but did love to read the classics. At 16 years of age, John entered the University of Vermont, graduating in 1879. During these 4 years, his intellect was stirred by a course in physiology in his junior year, and his studies in philosophy during his senior year. Interest in philosophy would shape the remainder of his career and his personal life. John received a Ph.D. in 1884, married Alice in 1886 while he was working as an assistant professor in philosophy at the University of Michigan. 3 years later, he was a full professor at the University of Minnesota, but left soon after to rejoin University of Michigan as the department chair in philosophy. 1894 found he and his family, eventually to be 9 children, moving to the University of Chicago, where he served as department chair, and founder and director of the laboratory school. The lab school was a small group of students that met in a house and was created to teach in the progressivism style, or the Deweyan style. By 1904, 10 years later, Dewey and the administrator of the University of Chicago had a disagreement, and Dewey moved to Columbia University, where he remained until his retirement in 1929. He died in 1952 at the age of 93. John Dewey's philosophy of education gave students the benefit of the doubt in their desire and ability to learn. He said, "Since learning is something the pupil has to do himself and for himself, the initiative lies with the learner. The teacher is a guide and director. He steers the boat, but the energy that propels it must come from those who are learning." According to Dewey, intellectual learning is amassing and retaining information. It does not become knowledge until the learner comprehends the relationship between the information and his own world. Traditional schools treated information like bricks. The teacher in the classroom would pass out the information like handing a brick to a child. One brick, or many individually distributed bricks, does not relate to any other brick or anything the child knows or cares to know. The information is not truly learned or taken into the child's activities because it doesn't relate. All learning must be connected to our emotions, or the things that matter to us, before they become knowledge. Dewey submitted teachers should begin to pile up bricks by inviting students to connect them with other bricks, timbers, and metals to create a building. Now the student has reason to care about the bricks. Now he has built a building in which to live. It is connected to him. He has gained real knowledge. To demonstrate how this would look in a classroom setting, let's examine 3 topics taught in this building with bricks method. First, let's look at the example of a child building a box. It is not enough for the student to make the box. He needs to design it, choose the appropriate wood, measure the parts. Then he must prepare the materials: saw, plane, sandpaper. They will need to develop a knowledge of tools and their function and the effects on wood and other materials. In this way, students use all the faculties available to them to produce one small or large box, which is just a small symbol of all they learned through the process. Second, a child who thinks he would like to cook has little idea of what it costs or what it requires. Rather than simply humoring the interest in making cookies, take the opportunity to help the child discover where recipes come from, how ingredients react with each other, and what results in the cookies they produce. The results of substituting other ingredients, measuring, the origin of flour and how it's processed, the effects of different oven temperatures on the cookies. Now the child has a deep appreciation for the process of producing ingredients as well as the fitting together of ingredients to produce something really good to eat. Third, another instinct of children and adults is in the use of pencil and paper to express their thoughts and interests. If a teacher simply lets the child draw without direction, there's no growth. But let the child express his impulse to draw, then through critique, questions, observation, study, and practice, the result is quite different. For example, drawing the primitive living conditions of people who lived in caves, the original picture is primitive in itself. After field trips to study and observe trees and rock formations, the drawings become more advanced. In the meantime, the children were able to study different species of trees, study the rock formations and their history behind them. They were able to experience the world in a bigger way because the teacher guided them beyond their first impulses. Dewey believed in and practiced this type of education, letting the students search out answers to their own questions and interests. The teacher is guiding and directing without drilling concepts that do not fit together in a meaningful, personal way. As a teacher, it might be easier to just teach out the curriculum someone else published, but I like the idea of creating, discovering, and growing with our students by exploring the world in a more progressive way. In the progressivism philosophy, teachers really do show up as artists, sensitive to shaping the whole student, lovers of learning and interacting with students, wise mothers engaging in discussions about experiences, navigators guiding learners through the waters of learning, gardeners creating environments for students' natural capacities to grow, pioneers developing courage, imagination, and adventurousness, servants maintaining proper social order by serving students, social engineers sculpting other possibilities of teaching, composers composing educative experiences, wise physicians feeding the soul of the student, builders building on artistic ideas, making ideas a reality, leaders leading students into learning opportunities, classroom teachers. It's what we are, not just what we do.